right, about 62% of our county currently has no electricity. 62%. If you're listening in your car on a battery-operated radio, I know you are anxious to find out when the electricity is coming on, and we will give you those reports as we get them. We're keeping in touch with the 3 or 4 different utility companies that make that possible. So we'll let you know that. However, I want to tell you this. You do not need electricity to read a book. You do not need electricity. You can take a book. You see, isn't this great? See, old-fashioned entertainment. Just get a good book. We've got one to tell you about. It's called Lies She Told. It's by Catte Holahan, and she's on the phone. And she is our second phone-in guest this morning since trying to figure out how to handle this with the hurricane problems that we've had. And if you're listening, Kate, this is what I want to tell you to expect. Expect that there's going to be an echo on your end, but please know that on our end, you're going to sound great. And if you can just put up with the echo, then we should be able to get through this okay. If not, then do not feel bad about asking if we could do it another day. That would be fine. The book is called Lies She Told. I'm going to now push the switch that connects us, and we'll be able to find out if this can happen or not. Catte Holahan, thank you for being patient with us. Good morning, Kate.
Good morning, Larry. Thanks for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. You sound good on our end, and if there's an echo on your end and it's unbearable, then we apologize, and we can always reschedule this. How is it? How is it sounding?
There is an echo, but I'm okay.
Okay, all right, great.
And it's great that you're soldiering on with everything that's been going on with the hurricanes. Certainly my prayers are with everybody.
I appreciate that. Where are you?
I'm in New Jersey.
Okay, New Jersey. Well, you had your share with Sandy, didn't you?
We did a while ago. In fact, I was on the Hudson River, and the water came up to the first floor of my apartment.
Gosh, really?
So we took the kids and brought them to the second floor.
Oh, wow.
But it ended up okay. Luckily, it didn't actually come into our apartment, although it did ruin some areas of the building.
Yeah, I am from Long Island, so all of my Long Island friends were posting pictures, especially on the south shore of the island. The name Sandy, you couldn't have had a better name. I mean, it brought sand everywhere, right?
Yes, I guess that's one way to look at it. You can always kind of twist these names of these monster storms and hurricanes.
Do you know one thing I find interesting about the book, because we only have a short time, so let's make sure we're fair to the book, is that I get a little bit of an insight into your world, because this is about a novelist.
That's right. It's a story about a suspense writer whose work-in-progress novel starts to hint at clues to a disappearance in her real life.
Wow. And does that ever happen? I mean, has it happened to you where it almost sounds like you are an unwilling psychic or something, or you don't know you're psychic, and then you read your own words and realize maybe you are?
Well, I think what happens to writers is that we're all influenced by things around us, and details kind of seep into our subconscious, and then they resurface in our writing. So, one question you get as a writer all the time when you go to these conferences is, where do your ideas come from? And I was kind of playing with that concept of, well, where do ideas come from, and why is it that some anecdotes stick with us and become an inspiration for a story, or some detail or image? And so, I take that to very dark places in my thriller, because the woman doesn't actually know what's influencing her. She's not sure if she's kind of subconsciously picking up on clues of things that people have done around her that maybe she doesn't consciously realize, or if it's all just coincidence.
It is interesting. I have a history. I don't really write much anymore, but I used to write songs when I was younger. And every once in a while, I'll have a word in a song, and I'm thinking, that sounds good, but is that the right word? And I'll go to the dictionary back in those days, and holy cow, that word works. So, I mean, I don't know if it's psychic as much as it is knowing something and then not realizing you know it, and it's just the brain somehow pulls it out. I don't know.
That's right. In fact, I did a lot of research on the way the mind works and why we remember what we remember. And there have been studies that show that we actually remember things more often when our adrenaline is activated, if we're a little bit nervous or fearful, which is kind of unfortunate. It means we remember awful things like, getting trapped in a hurricane more than we do some great birthday party. But it makes a lot of sense, and so it kind of goes into why this character remembers certain things that she does and why some of these details might be sticking with her.
The book held my attention as far as I got. I got up to maybe the 8th chapter or so. Do you, by the way, right now, if you're watching the streaming video, that's the cover of the book. I put that on there instead of showing an empty studio. Yeah.
Awesome.
When you write, you really make the reader believe that we're really there in the story, because you have such believable scenarios, and that also some of your characters seem like they're a mirror for the person that's reading the book.
Well, that's good, and there's certainly, I play with that where the character that she's writing is somewhat of a mirror of her own life. And part of the fun is trying to figure out how much of it is her own life, and who's the corollary in her story from the people in her real life.
Do you ever forget who you are when you're writing these characters?
I guess in some weird way I'm a little bit of everyone, although I hope that I abstract enough that no one's really derivative of me. Mm-hmm. I certainly don't want to be the author in this story.
Oh my gosh, I can't wait to get to chapter 9. It looks pretty interesting. The preface says, it's in part 2, everybody lies about sex, and is it hard to write from a man's perspective?
I check my words with my husband a lot of times. I think that I'm in a male headspace when I'm writing a male character, but I do kind of have guys that I bounce things off of and say, hey, would a guy actually think this way? I want to make sure I'm not kind of feminizing anyone. And sometimes my husband will look at me and say, yeah, I could see myself saying that. And sometimes he'll say, stop putting me in your book.
We actually have a similar discussion quite often in the morning. Like, let's say there was a movie we all saw or a book we're talking about, and it talks about experiences, the difference between men and women, especially if they are gender specific, which would be sexual mostly, and there are not too many other things that are gender specific anymore. But it is interesting because Robin and I are obviously man and woman, and so she has a different perspective than I do.
Yeah, I mean, I do think that gender and gender roles kind of influence how we interact with our world. And even if they don't influence you, you have to wonder if that's a conscious decision, that the person is actively, trying not to fill a role that they feel is prescribed to them because of their gender.
When books are translated into audiobooks, do you prefer just a solitary reader, or do you prefer more of a theatrical version?
I don't get any say. I prefer when someone buys the audio right.
Oh, really?
But however, I will say that the woman that reads this book has a very sultry voice, and she reads the dedication, which is to my husband. And my husband definitely replayed that a couple times.
Oh my gosh! Some of the reviews on Amazon. By the way, you got really good reviews on Amazon. It's 4.5 stars and lots of 5 stars. Here's one from Library Journal. They said, recommended for anyone who enjoys Paula Hawkins or Gillian Flynn, primarily because it's better.
Yes, that was a good review. It's been good. Kirkus gave it a star review, and Publishers Weekly, I think, called it engrossing. I'd have to look it up. And it was chosen as one of the picks for the Book of the Month Club.
Okay,
in September.
Yeah, I mean, this is. I'm looking. You have at least 2 other books. I don't know your whole history, but I've become an instant fan. By the way, I am a fan of audiobooks, so I can't wait to listen to this one. I was reading it, but I will listen to it as well. I
think you'll enjoy it. For my husband.
Yes, I think so. I have a copy of the book. Call me if you want the copy that I was reading, and I will switch over to the audio version. The rest of us have to go buy it. I found it on Amazon. Kate, do you have a website of your own?
I do. It's www.KateHolahan.com.
Okay, and Kate spells her first name with a C, and Holahan is Holahan. Kate, thank you for being on with us. Thank you for putting up with the echo. It sounds good on our end. You'll be able to hear the interview later on. Robin will make sure she sends it to you or your publicist or both, okay?
Okay, wonderful. Thank you both so much for having me.
Thank you.
And good luck with the cleanup.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, the community is amazing. That's who we really need to thank for that. All right, thank you, Kate. We will be right back.
An unexpected pregnancy can turn a young woman's life upside down. The House of One in Faith in Ocala gives these young women a place to live in privacy and comfort under the Christian care of counselors who will guide and protect both the woman and her unborn